Welcome back to Blow Up the Team. I'm Matt, and once again we're doing some MLB preseason grades. Today we get to talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates. So yesterday I got a little sneak peek of how I felt about this team. This team is finally heading in the right direction and deciding, yeah, we're gonna blow it up. For years and years, the Pirates have been mediocre. They had a string of runs in 2013, 14, and 15 where they made the wild card. And then but their old GM uh, just couldn't, for whatever reason, decide how to pull a trigger on a trade. So they never went and signed any big people in the off season. They ever pursued big trades. They pursued middle of the pack trades, some minor signings. They never and then they would sign people to 1 year deals, which like okay, so you're gonna hope to trade that? No, just sign random people and trade some prospects away. I think what finally made the team give up on GM Neil Huntington was that Chris Archer trade. They traded away Tyler Glasnow and Austin Meadows and one other big prospect to the Rays and got Chris Archer, who sucked since he's been traded. Um, they finally after 2019 though they decided okay now is the time to get rid of everything because they've been at the basement of the NL Central. It was between them and the Reds. The Reds are finally in position to make playoff moves, and they've been doing it right the whole time. The Pirates have been trying to skate along, and they can't skate anymore. I mean, they've been trying to skate on rusted out, chewed up skates. Is basically what they've been trying to do. They haven't been able to. They haven't had the same look as a team. They haven't had that same leadership, same solid lineup since they lost manager McCutcheon. So let's just so anyway, they signed a new GM, Ben Charrington, and they signed a new head coach, or a new manager, sorry, head coach. Jesus, new manager and Derek Shelton, both of whom had a lot of experience. It's their first time in their respective roles, but they've also been doing like Ben Charrington's been around, was there for helped with the Red Sox in 20 throughout the mid 2010s. Worked for the Blue Jays for a while. He's worked for other teams as well. So Derek Shelton's also been around with other organizations, including like the Yankees, Rays, and one other organization which I can't remember right now. The Indians, also the Twins as well. And so they're getting first chance to be managers, and it's been so overdue. The Pirates have had an ancient philosophy of things for so long. Um, the Clinton Hurdle, who ran this team into the ground for many years, just absolutely like they've had this philosophy. And the reason why I'm talking so much about the front office, by the way, is because I feel like this is what's brought this team down for so long. Clinton Hurdle and their pitching staff and their pitching coaches had this horrible, horrible philosophy of throw lots of sinkers. We pitch in a ballpark that's so big. Well, the problem is when you're forcing guys who don't throw sinkers. Well, it turns out that your pitching staff becomes one-dimensional, so they don't pitch on the road well. And when they're pitching a pitch that they don't know at home, it's not going to end up well there either. And so you've been hindering guys for years. Garrett Cole got lucky to get out. He left the Pirates. Like, he had a good year when he was leaving the Pirates, and then he goes to the Astros and dominates for 2 seasons because he finally didn't have to play for that horrible, horrible team anymore. Clint Hurdle liked to pretend this is the 70s where it's okay to hit guys all the time. All for the past couple of seasons, the Pirates have been either up in the top or at the top of the league in hit by pitches, and not just because their pitches have bad control, because they tell them to hit people. They caused numerous bench clearing brawls with the Reds this year. Their now projected closer, Keone Kela, admitted to throwing 97 miles at Derek Dietrich's head and was upset he missed. Like, this organization needs to grow up a little bit because it's no longer the days where people are throwing 80s and low 90s. They're throwing almost 100. You're trying to hit people in the head. So thank God they finally getting rid of some of these scumbags. Like, Jesus, they've needed it for so long. So, um, good riddance. No one will miss Clint Hurdle. No one should miss Clint Hurdle. No one should miss their Neil Huntington. No one should miss the former Pirates front office. So that is the best thing I'll say about them, because at the end of the day, the team is still in a terrible position to compete, not because they're still in this weird spot. However, they finally are able to breathe a little bit. And they actually did make moves for prospects. Like, for example, they sent Starling Marte to the Diamondbacks, which is a good move for them. And so maybe this year they can look to trade more people like Gregory Polanco, or there's been talks about Josh Bell, but Josh Bell is also the type of guy who could end up being a leader for this team because he's young and hits for a lot of power. We'll get into that, because let's just go right into the lineup. Top of the lineup, you have Adam Frazier. He's been up for a few years now. He's entering his 5th season in the MLB. He's been pretty consistent since he's been up. Honestly, he hasn't had a bad season. He's always been a very consistent performer at the plate. Uh, you know, mid 270s batting average with not a lot of power, but decent walk to strikeout, good glove, all around just a good player. He's not like some statistical powerhouse, but he's a solid player. He's definitely above replacement level type of player, which is good. He's a very solid stick in the lineup. Obviously, you want to see more progression out of him. Even if you don't, you still have a solid player leading right off. Next up, you have Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds had an amazing rookie year last year. Definitely flew right under the radar of a lot of people because he didn't have the flashy home run. Because the NL rookie race was entirely dominated by Pete Alonso. There was no question that Pete Alonso was winning Rookie of the Year last year. So even though he hit 314 with 16 home runs, and was a big reason the Pirates won games last year, it makes he just kind of got the short end of the stick. Um, but overall, really good bat. Great contact, good fielding. You're seeing the develop. This will be his 2nd season in the majors, so you got to. And obviously, I'm not gonna. You can't really. It's gonna be weird. There's gonna be a lot of weird statistics. There's gonna be some really bad player, or some really kind of quiet players who have some insane 2 months in the 60-game stretch, and will have their biggest seasons ever. There's gonna be some guys who are awesome players who could play like crap for 60 days because you don't get that many games to figure things out.
Can I ask you a bit of a random question?
Yeah,
Do you think that because of that, it's going to see the players are going to see that players that are in contract years? Is that going to be reflected in their contracts? Because like he pops off for 2 months, so like his season stats look insane, or like he has a terrible 2 months, so his season stats look terrible, and they get over underpaid based on a short sample size because that's all they have.
that see, that's interesting because like I could see it going both ways. Like I could see yes and no, because teams are gonna know that like this is a weird season going into the off season, so they know that like uh, I don't know. Let's pick like Jonathan Scope, for example, on the Tigers. Let's say he pops off and hits 350 with a bunch of home runs. People are gonna know, okay, but his other stats don't show that. But the fact that he showed so I definitely think it could help. I don't think it'll hurt anyone per se. Like let's say hypothetically it's like Mike Trout's contract year, which obviously he doesn't because he signed that massive contract. But like let's say hypothetically it was like Mike Trout's contract year and he hits like 200 this season with like less power than he's ever had. And people know it's Mike Trout, so obviously teams might try to. That's why I'm not sure, because teams could try and use it to their advantage and say, oh well, look what we did last year. But at the same time, I think teams are also aware that this is going to be a weird season, and so you're going to see a lot of statistical anomalies, and so that's why I think teams also tend to bet on people, where they decide to put their money based on prior performance. Bryce Harper, for example, in 2018 had probably the worst career up to that point, his worst full year in the majors. It was still a pretty decent year, but by Bryce Harper standards, it was his worst year. And so then the Phillies still gave him $30 million a year, or nearly $30 million a year for 13 years. So you have to wait. so that's why I'm not 100% convinced it would affect it either way. So I think for players who perform poorly, who are good in their contract years, it could slightly negatively affect them, but I don't think it'll be to the drastic extent that it would be if someone hit like that consistently. You know what I'm saying? But I do think it'll be a benefit for people who have been kind of lower end players who have a hot stretch. So that could end up benefiting some players. Hmm. So
Fair enough. I was just comparing it in my head to like in basketball, and I'm gonna be really quick because this is not a basketball video, but um, you see that a lot where a player will have one seat like he really never did anything before, but his contract year he has an insane year, so he goes out and he gets this big contract, and then he doesn't really do anything again. Like I think Harrison Barnes is a good example of that. He was a solid role player on that Warriors team. Do not get me wrong, and he's still a pretty solid role player, but he happened to have an excellent season the year before his contract year, and then he went and he signed a big contract to the Mavericks, and then in my opinion he is overpaid because he had that one big season. So I didn't know if it was the same thing as
yeah, and
well.
I definitely think that could happen because it definitely does happen. Um, Guys like who there was one because you do see that guys who are like hmm, like even in trade prospects, right? You see that a lot. So like for the Pirates, for example, Chris Archer had really awesome stuff, and so they traded a lot away for him, and it's not working out. And Chris Archer was in the middle of a stretch that was his best stretch of his career. So you definitely see that. You'll definitely see guys who have but that'll be like over the course of 162 games, as opposed to like if it's a whole season, that's something else. It's like Jonathan Scope hits over 300 for a whole season, or like Didi Gregorius, he's on a 1 year deal. Let's say this is a normal season, and over 162 games, he mashes a bunch of home runs, hits in the 280s, like he usually does. That's a big difference. Like that, because that's a whole season. But because it's a shortened season, I don't think it'll look the same way. I'm trying to think. There's one guy who I'm thinking of who actually got a pretty big contract heading into 2019 because 2018 was like his best season ever, like statistically. I can't remember who signed it. I'm trying to remember the pitcher's name. But there's like you'll find a lot of these guys in the MLB, like guys who had big seasons. And that's what baseball a different game from basketball. Like even though basketball has like a long season too, that's why like it makes the baseball such like a different game for contracts wise. Is because it's a long season, and so guys, you know, so I like for if someone like in a full season had a big you know season, but his other seasons weren't so great, he would definitely his contract value would skyrocket, but not to the point of someone who's been consistent for years, a consistently great player for years, and had a kind of a down season his contract year. You need a drink after that one.
Fair enough.
So, I think it answers your question. Yeah, yeah, it does. Okay. So anyway, getting back to the Pirates, Gregory Polanco, guy I was talking about, um, he got very limited playing time last year because he was coming off of a rotator cuff injury. Uh, but overall, he's been kind of his bat's always been kind of lacking, hitting the 250s. What saved him in like years like 2018, 2016 is that he has some power to go with it, in the 20 home run range. But which definitely speaks a lot for a guy hitting at PNC Park. But he's definitely not like guys like this are definitely not the future of the Pirates. So since I think he's in his last year of his contract with the Pirates. I think if Neil Huntington was still around, he'd find a way to not trade him somehow for some dumb reason, and so he's definitely a trade target this year. Um, because teams that are in the playoff race, there's guys in every team who are there who get traded because they need someone to be that fourth outfielder, fifth outfielder. So he's definitely a guy who's looking to be a role player on another team. Um, Josh Bell, first base, he had a monster start to the season last year. Had an overall monster season: 277, 37 home runs, 116 RBIs, 936 OPS. The guy is just mashes. In 2017 was a pretty big rookie year for him. 2018 was a pretty disappointing year, only hitting 260 with like way less power. 2019 was like a return to form for him. Matt like dominated all of April and May, and then fell off pretty hard, but came back and still performed really well overall. And so he's turning into a leader on this team. He's only 27 this season, so the Pirates have an interesting choice with him because if they want to pursue him as like a guy who can lead this team into the future, that'll be interesting. However, he's kind of the Trey Mancini area where he's in his later 20s. He's getting into his later 20s, and so that's where you kind of want to see, if the Pirates really think they can somehow stack enough good prospects up that fast to start to compete, you keep him. But I think overall it's probably smarter to trade him while he's got so much value behind him. But regardless, he's going to be this team's big power bat. Definitely the most threatening guy in this lineup. Um, and his walks to strikeouts are slightly better than like the average power hitter. So he's definitely very very good player to have at first base. Your DH slot this year is like I don't even trust this that it's going to be Jose Osuna. It could be, but it could also be any one of your bench players. Osuna hasn't had a complete year in the majors. Your bench players all probably going to get time here. So overall, your DH spot is looking pretty weak because you don't really have that any spectacular bats to put there. Behind him, you got Colin Moran, your third baseman. Colin Moran had a pretty solid season last year. Has had a pretty solid last couple of seasons, hitting at 270s. Not a whole lot of power, only in the 11 and 13 home runs, and definitely struggles with the strikeouts. But he's shown some capability, like tool wise, to hit. If he can work on his eye and even like a little bit of uptick in power, you could see him develop a lot more into someone who could be a trade prospect for them or be someone they look to keep around. Though I think more so than Josh Bell, he's definitely a guy you're looking to trade. You got Kevin Newman up. He's 26 years old. Had a really great year last year. 130 games. It hit 308. Once again, not a lot of power and decent bat. Kind of okay batting eye. Definitely puts the ball in play more than he strikes out or walks, which is good quality in some batters. And so you have to wait and see what happens this year because that was his first full real season in the MLB. So this is a guy who they have under control for the next 5 years. They have a lot of time to decide what they want to do with him. Behind the plate projected, you have Jacob Stallings. Didn't get a whole lot of time last year. Was a backup catcher last year to Francisco Cervelli. Though when he was playing, he had a 262 average, 6 home runs, 13 RBIs. Had some okay production for a guy who only played 71 games, but definitely bottom of the order type hitter. Then you got Jared Dyson, who's on here in a 1-year contract. This is a guy you're looking to just flip. He's the reason why a guy like this ends up on a team is because he's really good defensively, but definitely the bat is at most times anemic. Last year, 230 average. The year before that, a 189 average. The guy does not have real batting chops, but he is fast and he does have really good fielding. He's definitely got some guy you're looking to trade. Into the pitching staff, you have Joe Musgrove, who I think is the most complete pitcher of the staff. He started off really, really dominant last year. He led the league in ERA for the first half. Had a horrible second half. Saw his ERA blow to 4.4 for a number of reasons. But overall, you saw some glimpses of something really good out of him, and so I definitely think that this shorter stretch this year should be good for him because you saw how good he could be in short action. So hopefully those numbers continue to improve, and he's definitely the best pitcher on this squad. Behind you have Stephen Brault. Brault's been interesting to watch pitch. I think he's better than the 5.16 ERA. He got once again, I think a lot of these pitchers are going to have better years than they've had in recent years because, like I said, new staff, new coaches. They're getting rid of their old way of thinking. They're going to start pitching for how they know how to pitch. And there's actually a really interesting conversation that I think it was a pitcher list, or was it Rob Friedman, or it might have, I don't remember exactly where it was, but Stephen Brawl and Mitch Keller were talking to him and talking to someone, and basically their stuff, advanced metrics lies, looks really good, but they just haven't been getting it done. And Mitch Keller is actually statistically the most unlucky player in the MLB, like the most short weak base hits, the most balls that should have been fielded that weren't. Not like the type of, not like errors per se, because that wouldn't count towards the CRA, but like he's had. But meanwhile, some of his stuff is like in the top percentage of spin rate and movement and other areas. So I'm expecting some pretty big years out of Brawl and Keller, or at least just significantly better, because once again they're on a team that's not competing, and they're still trying to show that they have a spot in this league. And so I expect bigger years out of them. And Trevor Williams is included on the list. Trevor Williams had a really great year in 2018 with a 3.1 ERA. But really, and he's really struggled in 2019 with a 5.38 ERA and got injured. Um, Amazing guy on Twitter, so always rooting for him. He's always funny. So, but overall, you could see what I'm where this rotation's kind of trending. Um, yeah. So then fifth, they don't three. Well, you look at this. Chris Archer projected to pitch 1 inning this year. He's got neck surgery, and he went under surgery for quote neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome. I don't know what that is, but he won't pitch this year, which is why I don't even know why he's on the starter list. And from your bullpen, I don't know who you would put in there. I think Kyle Crick has had starts in his career. No, he hasn't. Never mind. See, I have no idea who you're gonna put in there as your fifth man, but you need a new fifth man. So this rotation looks really, really weak. And the bullpen doesn't look much better. Um, Keone Kela is projected to be your closer. Keone Kela, he's got talent. He's got talent. He's got a good fastball, and he had a good season last year before he got injured, and he's had a pretty good season, with the exception of one season. He's had nothing but good seasons in the majors, and he's young. Biggest thing he needs to work on is not throwing at people's heads. He caused a couple of the brawls last year. He started 2 brawls and got injured in May. Unrelated to brawls, but like that, like in that short of a period of time, he caused 2 brawls because Derek Dietrich pimped home runs against them. How dare he? He gave up 2 he gets a moonshot, so you're going to throw at his head. And he admitted to it, and then he got suspended for it. So, did this that's entirely unacceptable out of any major leaguer. Um, Interesting. And here's another problem. He hasn't taken the field for the Pirates yet during summer camp. And no one's been explaining why he's been absent. He's expected to be the closer, but he hasn't been on the field yet. So obviously this it's just weird because you'd expect him to make an announcement by now if he wasn't planning to play, which is fine if he doesn't want to play. I don't blame any player who decides they'd rather not play this season. But it's just weird. It's a weird situation. And then the rest of the guys in this bullpen, Kyle Crick's had a really dominant 2018, and then a real regression in 2019. 2018 the 2.39 ERA, 60 innings pitched in 64 games, and then despite throwing about the same speed, no real dip in velocity, and seemingly just dropped off the face of the earth, doubling his ERA, his WHIP shooting up. So I'm not really sure what exactly changed. Hopefully you can see him return to form because he's shown that for a whole season he can dominate. So hopefully that'll improve. The rest of the guys, first of all, this bullpen is small. So you'll have a lot of guys from the minors filling out the rest of this bullpen. And it will, for the most part, probably haven't even pitched before. Um, yeah, and they would have been a pretty big closer in this lineup had Felipe Vasquez not turned out to be a child predator, but that happened. And so while he's getting racked up on child pornography charges, the Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen is dwindling. So yeah, this bullpen's a mess. And also, fuck you, Felipe Vasquez, you creepy motherfucker. So yeah, this is in pretty dire straits. It's just not looking good. You had a lot of unproven guys who either hadn't played that much time in the majors, which is you can't fault them for, or guys who haven't had good years in the majors. So it's bad. Definitely, easily the worst team in the NL Central. But like I said, they are starting to make good moves, and they're starting to move in the right direction. So going next. Brian Reynolds. This man could very well be your future star. You got him under control for the next 5 years. And since he did get a full year, actually, he should have gotten a full year playing time. He didn't. That's rough. But 5 to 6 years, you have him. He's a lot of fun to watch. He doesn't have the power of Josh Bell, but he's got the contact to complement it and to get on base for Josh Bell to drive in. Going next, Josh Bell. He will undoubtedly be the home run leader on this team, and yet the Pirates decide to all have statistical anomalies in the first 2 months of the season and dominate. Well, this will be one of the big drivers behind that because uh, Josh Bell can mash. Going next, Joe Musgrove. He is turning himself into that very solid big league pitcher. I think the short sprint will be good for him to just get out there, get more innings, and develop himself more. Uh, I don't think his career is going to lie up with the Bucks, but I do think the Bucks could be where he turns into one of the better pitchers in our league. Going next, Kenny Keller. Hopefully he shows up. He's very dominant when he's on the mound, so hopefully he can, stop throwing at people for arbitrary reasons, and be that dominant closer for you guys, or just say he's not coming back this season, which is fine once again, and I wouldn't blame him. So anyway, going in lineup, it's a B. Like it's actually honestly it's a B minus. The they you got two really good hitters and uh actually two really good hitters and one pretty good hitter, and Josh Bell, Brian Reynolds, and Kevin Newman. But the rest is just kind of bad to average to bad. The bullpen is a dumpster fire. It's a D plus. It's bad. Keone Kell is good, and Kyle Crick has shown dominance before, but the rest of it's guys who, like I said, either haven't had playing time to prove that they can be good, or who just haven't been good.
I'm not
So
gonna lie, with
not
as bad as you were talking about them, I was expecting the fat F to come out.
yes, but like I said, they have one guy who has been dominant in the past for full season, and they have had one guy who's like good, who is proven to be a good pitcher. So that's why they're getting the. I don't even know why it's a D plus. It probably should just be a D, but we'll keep it. We'll be nice because in rotation, the only reason why it's not enough is because of Joe Musgrove. It's not, and once again, I expect a lot of them to improve better, but on paper, for how they performed, this is a D minus rotation. It's bad. It's really bad, and you don't have a fifth starter. You're like the only team in the majors who is so bad that you don't have a fifth starter. So,
Maybe they'll
oh
do what
god,
the Rays did and just have their bullpen games happen.
there was some crazy stat. I think Garrett Cole was getting paid more per year than the Pirates' entire team was. This team is bad. It's really bad. And honestly, I could rate this bullpen an F for and be entirely happy about it because it's bad. But I want to give Kyle Crick the the benefit of the doubt that he can turn it around. And I want, Keone Kella, if he comes back. If Keone Kella doesn't come back, I have no problem giving this bullpen an F. So maybe it's more of a D bullpen, but it's up there as a D plus, so I don't really feel like being too picky. But regardless, it's not like a D plus to a D. Is that significantly a change? It's bad. This team's bad. I'm sorry, Pirates fans, but praise be Neil Huntington and Clint Hurdle are gone. May baseball never rehire them again. Neil Huntington was bad at his job. Clint Hurdle, piece of shit. So, God rest these merry gentlemen and move on with the Pirates' life. This has been Blow Up the Team. Go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're a Pirates fan that thinks, I don't even know what the hell you could possibly think that would make this team good. So I'm not even gonna leave a hypothetical here. Go ahead and join our Discord if you want to come talk sports or just play some games or some shit. Did I forget? Oh yeah, go check out our social media, our Twitter and our Instagram. And yeah, that's about it. Really, I don't know what else to.
Monday,
Yeah,
we
what do we
go
do next?
to the Pittsburgh Steelers to look at their NFL draft this season. And then Tuesday,
Okay.
Matt comes back to talk about the Seattle Mariners.
Yikes.
Hey, listen, I get three solid football teams in a row. I get Pittsburgh, then we go to Seattle. So I go to the Seahawks on Wednesday. And then Thursday you go to San Francisco Giants, which means I get the 49ers on Friday.
Yeah, I get to talk. You get to talk about 3 good teams. I get to talk about 2 bad teams.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the week after I get the Bucks, the Titans, the Redskins, and then finally the Eagles on Friday. And then we're done.
Okay, Bucks and Redskins are pretty rough. That's fair.
So, anyways,
That's that's the show, everyone.
that's
All
all,
right.
folks. Oh,
That's
and
all,
we've
folks.
got
Is
thumbnail
he allowed
gun.
to say that
We've
legally?
got thumbnail gun decided to
Are
come
we
in at the
not
end of the
saying-
video.
Oh, thumbnail gun. Welcome, thumbnail gun.
Thank you.
Yeah, anybody who
thumbnail
appreciates
gun.
the thumbnails, you can thank thumbnail gun for the thumbnails.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't
just-
know we were still recording, but hi.
Definitely.
Welcome to this video. Sorry, we'll just get you to sign a contract that you don't make any money off this video. Don't worry.
Okay.
Um,
We don't make any money off this video, so he can't make any money off this video.
good. I got you fooled.
Okay.
I've been raking in dough the entire time with my like what
Millions.
max 10 view videos. Yeah.
Anyways, that'll be it for us for today, and we will see you next time. Peace.